Hey, you guys, welcome to this episode of The Rachel Cruze Show. And today we're going to shed some light on the harsh reality of minimum payments. If you're someone who is still skeptical about committing full on that you want to pay off all of your debts, well, I hope this episode exposes some of the ugly truth about the habit of just paying minimum payments. And honestly, you guys, listen, I get it, okay? Our culture has made it so normal for people to spend their entire lives just scraping by, meeting their minimum payment, mortgage payment, and car payment, and credit card payment, and student loan payment. It's like you just pay the minimum, what you can do to get by. But the harsh reality is that when you settle into that way of life, you end up throwing away thousands, even tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest alone. Those banks and credit card companies are getting free extra money over time that should be yours. Taking that money, that should be your money, but it is going to them. And listen, it doesn't have to be that way. Okay, so today we're going to look at exactly what you're missing out on. But before we look at the numbers, let's talk about the why so many people have settled into consistent credit card debt specifically. So there's a belief out there that you have to have a credit score to make a big purchase like a home or a new car. But if you have listened to the Rachel Cruze Show any amount of time, you know that is not true because we're not going to be taking out a car loan. Nope, we're going to be paying cash for our cars. And to get a mortgage, you can do what's called manual underwriting, where you actually don't need a credit score for that process to get a mortgage, because a mortgage is the one type of debt I will not yell at you for. But again, there's really no reason to say, okay, well, I have to have a credit card. I have to keep going into debt to keep my credit score going. And listen, another common excuse that I hear all the time for having specifically credit cards is like, well, I get the points and the airline miles. And listen, the truth is, sure, some of you do, and some of you use the system and it works and you pay it off every month. But statistically, there are people that don't do that. And on average, I think I saw that the average American family owes $16,000 in credit card debt. And you're going into debt deeply, not always paying it off month from month to month. And then you end up paying interest. And then on top of that, if you are someone that says, no, I do pay it off month to month, well, the reason you get those airline miles and you get those points is because the banks make a lot of money off of interest to people that don't do that. So people that are struggling are funding this industry that then turns around and rewards you for, playing their game. And so for me personally, I'm like, ugh, the whole thing, I'm like, I'm good. You statistically spend more on a credit card too. So I'm like, okay, the extra percentage that I would have spent subconsciously on a credit card, I'm going to keep because I'm going to use cash or my debit card, and I can use that savings to go and buy an airline ticket if that's what I want to do. So again, I know some of you play the game and it works for you, but for me, I'm like, I don't even want to play the game. I'm out. Okay, and then lastly, there's people in another category that say, well, yeah, I'll just go into debt because I for sure can make the minimum payment, or I'll just pay off the debt soon and it'll be fine. But what ends up happening is it becomes the norm and you end up keeping it around. And if something happens, if life happens, there's a medical emergency, somebody loses their job, you have all that risk of all that debt hanging over your head that suddenly comes crashing down. So playing the whole debt game is it's so tough. And then on top of the debt game is interest. So when you make minimum payments for a long period of time, it ends up adding up to so much money. Okay, and let's just pretend that you are somebody that has enough to provide for you and your family, and you pay the minimum payments, you pay the interest, and that's how you live life. If you took all of that out and you said, okay, what if you weren't paying that payment and you weren't paying that interest, you would have all this margin to do a lot of stuff, you guys. You could use that money to invest. You could use that money to spend. You could use that money to give. You could support so many causes in this world and help so many people with that extra money that's going to banks. It could be going to your family, to your community. And that is where real joy comes from, not from all the stuff that we put on for credit cards and car loans and all the stuff. So just think about, okay, where is my money going and how is it being used? So I think there's a real heart check there that may help motivate you to say, man, maybe I don't want to live a life paying minimum payments and paying interest to banks just to have a bunch of stuff. What if I do get my money in order? I have margin. I'm able to invest and give generously and do all these other things with money that honestly help so much more in the long run. Guys, I know we're all looking for ways to save, especially on healthcare costs. So do yourself a favor and check out Christian Healthcare Ministries. It's biblically based health cost sharing that could help keep your budget under control. So learn more today at chministries.org/budget. All right, so let's look at some specifics when it comes to numbers. A recent study says that the average mortgage interest paid over a lifetime was over $142,000. And that was calculated at a 2.7% interest rate, which now we know is way higher. But you guys, $142,000 in just interest. Isn't that crazy? And the same study shows that the average auto loan interest and student loan interest paid over the lifetime is almost $12,000 combined. Some of you may be thinking, oh, it's just $12,000 over my lifetime. I mean, who cares? It's not that much money. Well, let's see what that money could have been if you just invested it. So another statistic shows the average interest paid on credit card debt alone is around $1,300 each year. And remember, that's not including the interest that you lose on home, auto, or student loan debt. So starting at age 25, if you were to take that amount, $1,300, and invested it every single year, instead of it going to minimum payments and interest, you would have close to $700,000 saved by 65 years old. $695,000 to be exact. You guys, that's pretty wild. I mean, all of that could have been going to you and building wealth and using it to say, hey, I actually want to retire with dignity and have some money at retirement versus sending all of that money to the bank. It's pretty wild when you think about the numbers. So I hope you guys that this was really helpful because I want you to see the reality of what's going on. I want you to have shame or judgment or fear, all the things, but I do want you to look up and say, man, is what I'm doing when it comes to debt smart? Instead of paying banks and credit card companies and motor companies and like all this stuff, what if I just paid myself? Like, what if I took my money back in my own hands and did things for myself? It's pretty remarkable when you have that perspective. So if you're tired of feeling weighed down by debt and payments, or if the thought of throwing, again, money away to interest just sounds terrible to you, let me just say, number one, it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't. Yes, you can handle your money in a completely different way, which is so encouraging. And number two, I would say Financial Peace University is a great place to start. So this has been teaching people how to pay off debt and experience freedom with their money for decades. And it will equip you to start tackling the 7 baby steps and stay motivated throughout the entire process. So you can sign up today at RamseySolutions.com and get started on this journey, you guys, because this is here to help you and to teach you and educate you and also to motivate you. So it's really, really helpful. So please check it out and make sure to share this episode with a friend who might be interested in putting their interest money to better use. And remember, you guys, to take control of your money and create a life you love.